Well, we're going to be getting started in just a couple of minutes, and I just love these meetings. I got to tell you, we're going to be talking today about how you can retire in the next 5 years. But Ed, I don't want to retire. Okay, that's not what I was saying. What I'm saying is that you would be able to retire. You'd have the ability to retire. We should all be making our business plans exactly that way. Why? Because it makes our business better. And I think it's really important to recognize that if you do everything that you can, um, to pick up and improve your business, you're going to actually have something that's got to be of worth. Now, remember, as realtors, we think of ourselves as uh, self-employed. I want you to think of yourself a little bit more than that. I'd like you to think of yourself more like a business owner, which you are. We're going to be talking about the things that you need to do to set yourself up, the approaches that you need to take, who you need to actually speak to, the kind of professionals you're going to need in your life, and be able to actually just begin to make a step-by-step process. So in the next 60 months, that's 5 years, you'll be able to retire if you want or not. Choice is yours. Let's get everybody in the meeting here. Okay, so everyone's joining us now. I love that. And I got all these other autopilots. I got Aton in Europe. Welcome, my friend. We got Dirk in Denver. We got Jonathan. Love having Jonathan here. Hey, Dirk, can we do that mastermind next week together? Yeah.
I'm up for it.
Okay, good. So that brings the next mastermind to the topic as well. I'll just let a couple of other people come in. Buying income properties. Dirk, how many doors do you own?
I'm just under 50. I'm going to be selling a few this coming week, actually, and then going out and hunting for another deal.
Okay, love the hunting and I love the type of stuff. I don't want to kill the presentation, but Dirk and I were speaking. We're going to do that next Wednesday. How to actually, we've been selling a lot of real estate. How are you going to invest in a lot of real estate? And one of my guests will be Dirk. We've got a couple of other realtors that have been masterful at purchasing properties. If you have anyone that you think should be a featured speaker on that, please do let me know. It's going to be great. Also, as all of you know, this meeting is going to be in the archive. Bogen.ai. Perhaps Aton, you could throw that up into the chat for everyone to see. Um, so you're going to be able to watch this video in archive in perpetuity, and all of that stuff is great. Also, Aton has put a lot of time into the back end of all the stuff that we're doing. We have a workbook, which I hope you download, and that's been made available, and I'm sure it'll be made available a couple more times during this meeting. Also, like Cal Ripken hadn't missed a game in his whole career. It was my hip replacement last week that shut me down. I'm happy to be back. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. We have their meeting today at 9 a.m., which is now. And we also have a repeat, an encore of this meeting on Friday at 12 o'clock. So with that little bits of tidbits, if you want to come back for that, there's always a little bit more information that we have in these meetings. So, so that said, this meeting is all about your 5 year exit strategy. That's 60 short months. And a lot of you have said, but Ed, I don't want to retire. I'm like, great, don't. That's not what I'm saying. I'm giving you the ability to do that. I think the very thought of putting a deadline on a goal is so important. It's so important for several reasons because it really, in the process, if you kind of make yourself artificially hungry, even if you're retiring 15 years, 20 years, whatever time frame you might want, you now will be able to maximize the time that you're in the business. So think of this as an exercise in productivity, and that's really where I want to go with this. So retirement, but that said, who wants to retire in 5 years? Okay, Dirk, you're a young guy. Rick, I haven't seen you in ages. How are you, Rick?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you. Yeah, I've been busy. I got two brokerages, so I go back and forth between Atlanta and Pensacola to both of them. So on the road a lot.
Okay, well that's great stuff. Welcome, Rick. Hopefully we could catch up as well. Dirk, that was kind of a surprise. Why don't you define for me what retirement is? I mean, you're the one with the 50 doors. Do you have those 50 doors? And when I say 50 doors, I say 15 income generating properties. So some of you, I don't want to get lost in the terminology. What was your mindset when it came to that? Will you still have those passive income properties at that time?
Yeah, retirement to me is complete financial freedom, and really having the FU money to do what you want and when you and how you want to do it. So I don't know if I'll ever be truly retired. I'm sure I'll always be doing real estate in some aspect and working with somebody that I want to work with. But retirement is just that freedom to me.
Yeah, it's a strange business that way. I know there's very few realtors that truly retire entirely. In fact, one of the strategies that we have that we're going to talk about today is the kind of client that you get. What does that mean? A standard referral. If you say to me, "Hey Ed, I've got someone who wants to sell a home in Boca Raton," what's standard here is a 25% single side referral fee. Now, is that the case in Denver and in Queens, Paula, or in Greg? Welcome back, Greg. Good to see you. Is that standard where you are? Yeah, nod yes, maybe. More or less. It's okay if it's okay. Greg's a little skeptical. What's the matter, Greg? It's not enough for you? They changed all the buttons. You got to unmute yourself there, Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about
Okay.
now?
Yeah, good.
Yes, I would say that's typical. Um, I don't think we're any different here than anywhere else.
Okay. So
Edmund, one thing I've been doing with my agents,
good.
and when I get some referrals, because I still do deals too,
Hmm.
um, I'm suggesting they do 30. You see all of the leads or programs that come in, you get Redfin and all that, and they start out with a lead and you're paying them 35% usually, sometimes 40. So it's like, you know what? If you got a referral, I'd say ask for 30, and they're getting it.
Sure.
Agents are gladly accepting those.
Yeah, look, you know what, Rick, not to quote Anthropic, but you're 100% right. It really is true that when I listen, who's selling through Zillow right now? Who gets Zillow leads? Anybody? I've heard in our previous meeting, somebody said that we figured it out. They're paying about 40 cents on the dollar and they're busting their ass with this. So you're right, 25% might be too low. Let's just set the baseline. Can we agree to that? That the baseline should be 25%. Good. Mazel tov. Love it. So we know right from the get-go that if you exist out there and you want to retire and you're making a living right now, theoretically, depending upon how you market yourself, you already are a lot closer there than a lot of other businesses. That's step one. Step two is to actually talk about who and what is actually going on within the business. Who do you have right now that you're actually dependent upon? And what exactly are they really doing for you? Let's talk about that just a bit. Too many agents think of themselves as working for themselves. They're not. You have a company. Rick has a company. Okay. He's got two offices. He's got multiple people. He's seeing himself that way. So first things first, you got to look at yourself a little bit differently, or you'll never be able to exit because if it's so tied to you, it's going to be problematic. That's one. Two, you got to talk about what actually scales. Compass just made this huge purchase. They now have 40% of the brokerages in America. Something along the lines. Actually, Rick, it's an idea for you because I know who is it? Champagne and Parisi are now a Compass company. They were literally bought out by them. And what's the rate? 3 to 5 times EBITDA, 3 to 5 times the earnings before interest, taxes, and blah 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 blah. So it's really something for you to actually consider. If you're going to make the exit, you've got to just say to yourself, okay, great, you have this chunk of money coming in, you've got to pay tax on that money and you don't have any further revenue coming in. Maybe that's not the best strategy. I don't know. But we could talk about the variety of things. What else can you do? What I love about what Dirk was saying is he's still going to own doors. He looks at it as you said, fuck you money, right? Yeah, it's a little crude, but I get what he's saying. He's saying that he wants to be able to have the ability to live his life, to be able to do what he wants when he wants. Owning property is a great way to do that. It's also a great way to go and fix a toilet in the middle of the night if it breaks. Know the pros and cons of all of these things. But what I would ask all of you is, and I'll let anyone go around, if you were to, instead of retire, severely dial back the volume of work that you're currently doing, what would you do? What would you do? And I'm going to push everybody on this a little bit. What do you think you would do if you were just going to, if you were going to cut 50% of your workflow. You work 40 hours a week. Hell, you don't work 40, you work 50 hours a week. You're cutting it back to 20 or 25 hours a week. So you're going to work 2 or 3 days a week. What are you going to do 3 days a week? Any thoughts? Okay. Has anyone considered property management? Okay. Has anyone considered, dare I say, coaching? Okay. It occurred to me. It sure did. Let me tell you, it's actually working out pretty well. Have any of you considered?
Similar to coaching, Ed, actually, I've considered business matchmaking.
Okay, talk to us about that.
Well,
And
since I
first,
spent
tell everyone. This is Mark, a good friend. Go ahead, tell everyone about
good,
you.
good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Lawrence. I've been in the title insurance business for 20 years. That's one of the things I do. I do a bunch of things, but that's my primary. I was an agent before that and a lawyer, actually, many, many years ago. But one of the things I've done probably since the early 2000s is a lot of networking and a lot of connecting. Really a good part of my day involves just reconnecting, talking to people that I met. Actually, I've been recently talking to a lot of people I met through vis-a-vis through Edmund. 20 years ago. So, just keeping them on the radar, keeping them, so that you become a go-to person that they go to knowing, hey, listen, I have this situation. I mean, literally yesterday, 4 people called me about properties that, they potentially are getting to sell. And if I know anyone, so I would say I would probably, stop my core working, which I have no reason to right now. And really just focus on, putting people together, finding deals, and trying to make a revenue off of that. Which something I think Edmund's done a lot of as well. Connecting people and making referrals. So I'd say referrals would be a full-time business for me.
Okay, it's something to certainly consider. How about when you get a lead? Again, I'm trying to think as abstractly as possible, and then we'll bring it into clarity. How about you get a lead, and that lead is not the perfect client for you? For example, um, my team's mission, whenever possible, is to work on deals greater than $1 million. Now, is that going to always be the case? Of course not. If somebody bought a several million-dollar home from me and their kid needs a $5,000 a month rental, well, guess what? If I want to keep the relationship, I got to figure something out to work with this person, right? So sometimes we do need to actually lose for the lead. We're one of the very few businesses that actually will lose for the lead at times. But that's what I'm always trying to figure out. What can we do with the stuff that we don't have? Well, I don't think Tiffany's here right now. Is Tiffany here? Maybe she is. Tiffany has been someone that she's a top professional, very, very smart, very nice. And when I recently I got somebody who called me on Friday. They called me on Friday and they said that they on Friday night. So let me set the stage here. They called me Friday night at 7:30. I'm 5 days out of hip replacement surgery. Okay, and I just took a Percocet. So that's a little set. Okay, and I'm not a druggie. So I just took a Percocet. 7:30 Friday night. Get a phone call. They're only here for this weekend. It's a lead. Their husband died. They want to sell their two-bedroom a condo in Lantana. I looked it up. A $400,000 deal. It's not bad. That's bread and butter work, guys. I mean, I'm not so arrogant as to think it's not there. But as I just stated, it's probably not something that my team would do. It's probably driving wise about 5 or 7 minutes farther. Oh, but Ed, what's 5 or 7 minutes? You got to have a cutoff at some point, right? It's probably a little bit. And finally, uh, 2 people are away for the weekend. Dina's got her family here. It's 7:30 on Friday night, and I'm on drugs. So what are we going to actually do for that? Enter Tiffany. I've given her several deals right now, and she's upheld my good name and reputation. Um, because it's a referral, there's a rule that I have. You cannot refer a referral, or you should not refer a referral. The pie just gets too small, guys. It's just not enough money at some point. And she went out on the listing appointment, and more than that, I helped her with the presentation and several other things that actually got this thing together. And I believe she got the listing. Um, who are your avatars? Who are your people that are going to represent you in deals that you might not have? Did I get a referral fee from her? No. In fact, I spent time on that, but I got social currency, and that's a value to me. I'll help any one of you. I really will. I mean, that's something that actually really mattered. Now, there was another deal that I did with someone. I gave the referral. Oh, Ed, we're buying for $300,000. Great, I made the referral. They bought for 1.5. Deal's a deal. They made their money. They made $38,000 in GCI. I gave but it's always somehow come back to me. The question becomes, how are you setting yourself up for scenarios like this? Because this is a very real situation in real estate that if you really do keep your name out there, the engine could keep working for a long, long time. So I really like you guys to stop and think about this. Sellable businesses runs without owner producing. Unsellable businesses. Revenue stops when the owner stops. Sellable business systems and team drive revenue. Do you have a system? Is the team driving the revenue? Unsellable owners relationship drive everything. Okay. Even if you're the one that people are coming to, you got to have someone like Tiffany that's going to represent the quality of your brand. Write this down, except for Greg, who's driving right now. People are not hiring you. They are hiring the service that you are bringing to the table. This is a very important concept because if you end up you're just going to be everyone's bitch. That's not what you want to be. That's not, you want to be able to say that you with confidence. That's why if Tiffany ever really messed up and she won't, you got to very seriously understand whether you want to work with that or not. Are you going to really make a referral to someone that could damage your relationship? People could say, "Oh, you tried, you set me up on a great date." But if she was a psycho, you're still the guy that set me up with a psycho. So don't set people up with psychos. Okay. Um, the brand separate from the owner's name. That's somebody who's got a sellable business. I'm still Bogen AI, Bogen PR, Edmund Bogen team at Douglas Elliman Real Estate. I'm not there yet. I recognize that if we're going to have something that's going to be scalable or sellable, it needs to go beyond the name. Feel free to disagree with that, but these are just notes that I've made in observations of successful companies. Documented processes, CRMs, and SOPs. Anybody have one? Anyone? Okay, Greg does. Greg, oh boy, I'm so proud of Greg there. Okay, if you don't have it, don't worry about it. You got some time to build this here. But the more process oriented that you are, and the more process that you're going to be able to drop into, the more sellable the process is going to be. So let's stop and think about that. Multiple lead generation channels. The owner is the only lead generation channel. Where are all your leads coming from? So, this is something that we discuss over and over and over again in our meetings here. Where is the business actually coming from? I don't know what leads I'm going to get in the next 7 days, but I'll tell you this, I know I'm going to get some. I know I'm going to get some. I don't know which iron is going to fire at what point. I don't know when something's going to roll in, but I know somebody's going to get divorced. Somebody's going to get promoted. Someone's mother, God forbid, is going to die. Something's going to happen that's going to have a material impact in the business. And because I've spent my time setting myself up for all this stuff, it's going to roll in. The question becomes, what do we do? How do we actually capitalize on that on a consistent basis? We could set you up with any type of ongoing marketing beyond your business, but you really have to wrestle with these things, struggle with it, think hard about it. It's important. And then finally, diversification in your revenue streams. Guys, I can't tell you how important that is. Right now, if your only revenue stream is the sale of real estate, or the sale of a particular type of real estate. What do I mean by that? 55 plus communities, condos on the beach, things that might have a sudden change in the market. You're dramatically putting yourself at odds with what might be a big change in that actual market. Too many buyers versus too many sellers. There's times where I've had more on either end. Not coming up with other revenue streams. I wore my wife's shirt today. My wife has a business called Organized Palm Beach. It's a revenue stream. It's a revenue stream. She is a professional organizer. She charges a fortune. She charges $200 an hour, unapologetically. Unapologetically. That's, you want to hire her. That's what it's going to cost. I do her books. I get her all organized on that. That's one business that daisy chains into another. This meeting is as much philosophical as it is practical. So try and stop and think this through. And guys, if you have a great idea that's coming up because of what I'm saying, jump up and tell us here. I really would love to do this. There's a guy in New York. Where are my Long Islanders? Hedeka. We got Hedeka there. There's a guy in New York. He's a Hasidic Jew. He owns nursing homes, but he doesn't just own nursing homes. He owns adult daycare facilities. He owns the ambulate services that takes the people to and from those places. He has certain catering services that goes on there. He bought a physical therapy business. I mean, talk about somebody that really hammers away at all the stuff. And I guess if there's anything that you can really take away from here is I'd like you to know you're leaving money on the table. There's stuff that you need to stop and think about and say, how far can you go? Douglas Elliman, my company that my license is with, has an affiliation with a title company, has an affiliation with a mortgage company. Personally, I think they could have affiliations with a lot more. And again, as agents, we're free to choose who we want to do business with. But do you have those kinds of connections? Has that even been in your mind at this point? Some of this could be the master of the obvious. Yeah, I get it. You could be saying, well, yeah, I could have, but I dare you to say that you actually thought about it. A lot of you have not. So I want you to consider it. Okay, what did I say here? Compass acquired Anywhere Real Estate, Century 21, Coldwell Banker, Sotheby's, Corcoran for $4.2 billion. It's the top 10% of brokerages, now represents 42% of all sales. And what are they doing with that? They're basically saying, do we really need the MLS anymore? Have you seen that? Do we really need to put our stuff on the MLS, which goes out to Zillow and propagates to all these things where some other person is paying them to be able to get their deal? It's a very interesting time. Before this happened, I used to say, what if Kim Kardashian started her own brokerage? Who knows? She might. Maybe she does. I don't know. But if she did, who wouldn't want to do business with Kim Kardashian? Out in California, maybe not one of us here, but you could imagine a lot of celebrities would say, yeah, we'll list with Kim. We'll go to Kim. We'll see what's in her own inventory. Self-perpetuating ecosystems are coming up. I want you to be able to take advantage of that and take a look at those self-perpetuating ecosystems. Let's see. Okay, now on to the prompts. Questions? No? Maybe? Okay. So we're going to have to talk about the actual valuation. What is, Rick, you came here to talk to us about your businesses again. You've got two.
Yeah, I've got two brokerages, one
Okay.
here in the Atlanta area where I live, about 150 agents. In Pensacola, Florida, we've got about 50 agents, so 200 agents total. My thing here is I am a working agent too. I still do deals too myself because I love it. And I know we've got a lot of agents, I think, on here mostly, perhaps, but my thing for me is exit strategy, say in the next 5 years, however long I can keep it going, right? To, sell the businesses at some point, to whomever. So that's what my interest was in your session today, was to hear your thoughts and insights. I did an acquisition actually in Pensacola of the brokerage down there. I started from scratch, but then I acquired one and I learned everything you want to learn about how not to do it. I ended up having to sue him for non-compete. I prevailed in court. But nonetheless, cost me a lot of money, but it gave me a lot of insights into character of somebody that you end up buying, to make sure you try to check that out. But anyway, so that's my thing here, is more for the businesses.
So then, good guys, we got an encyclopedia here, and I'm gonna dig into this encyclopedia a little bit. What was this, without giving me how much you made or how much you spent? What's the structure of something? How many times earnings did you actually sell for or buy for? Was that a
That's a good
factor?
question. And you mentioned about the multiples today, because I kind of keep track of that. Most recent multiples that I'm seeing are about 4x.
Okay.
Okay. But again, that all comes down to the numbers. I mean, that's the critical thing, is you've got to be able to take the numbers. Here's how you do it. You take the P&Ls, for example, from the owner, And then you go through and you have to eliminate everything that, owners run things through, whatever, meals, entertainment, whatever the heck it is. You got to eliminate that stuff and get to the core of what the business is. So right there, you might have a disagreement between the owner about this because, well, I'm not going to give you credit for that because whatever, you were buying meals for your family or whatever it might be.
Sure.
So once you get to that, you come to a number that you're comfortable with as a buyer. And then, multiples though can range anywhere from, typically 2x up to, 7x if it's really like printing money for you. So that's the challenge always. Now, just an example, as HomeSmart model, we are a transaction model, meaning we don't charge splits.
Hmm.
So our model's a bit different from an economic standpoint. So we have to look at really look at it closely because we get $544 a transaction. We don't get 20, 30%. Okay.
Hmm.
So we've got to have a lot of transactions. So that's something that we have to look for. If you're a traditional brokerage, then you've got a little more leeway there because you're getting higher, splits, if you will, getting splits. So but I
How,
guess
how do
go
you
ahead.
stop the people from leaving? In other words, you buy a business with 50 agents. They liked Bob. They don't know Rick. They liked Bob. I don't know what his name is, but
Yeah.
what's keeping them there? And is that accounted for in the transaction process?
It is, well, I guess it wasn't, I didn't think about it, but my whole makeup is that I'm a hands-on broker and I get to know all of my agents and build a relationship with them. So that was my goal with the acquisition of these, 50, 60 agents in Florida. So I mean, from the very get-go, like we had a kickoff session. We had like a picnic. It was in the summertime. Went down. I was down there. Of course, they're looking at me like, "Oh, who's this dude?" They thought I was an agent. And then John gets up and says, "Hey, just want to let you know that there's going to be a little change." And then he basically said, "Hey, I've just sold the brokerage direct, blah blah blah." And of course, a lot of the agents are looking at me like deer in the headlights. But I mean, my top priority at that point was just to get to know those agents, not only at the picnic that we did, but from that point forward, every day. To build a bond. I mean, I bought a condo in Pensacola because I knew I was going to be going down there often. So, I mean, I stayed down there for a week and I met with every one of the 50, 55 agents
Mm.
individually, just to say, hey, this is me, this is how I work. I want to learn about you. So, I mean, it's all about, but it's no different, than when we're an agent and we're building that up with buyers and sellers. That's what we're all about.
There was a case with a commercial brokerage that sold in New York where the owner he was a beloved owner of the company. And he got up and he looked out at everyone and the deal was already made, but he kind of surprised the buyer of his company who really didn't understand what the guy was going through. And he said, well, aside from having this big thing and introducing you to our partner, all of you need to know that I'm retiring. No, we love you so much. It's terrible. It's horrible. And no, no, no. And then it got worse. And then he said, I actually have cancer. I'm dying. And everyone's, oh my God. It's like, and now this guy will tell you the plans for the company. And he gets off the stage and the guy looks out and okay, and this is what the guy said. He said, "Well, that's two of us who are about to die on stage." Everyone bursts out laughing at that point. I mean, he really set himself up right from the get-go of being like a likable kind of character. It was a ballsy kind of move. I'm going to look up the name of the company, but it was kind of a famous scenario. And the man did pass on 7 or 8 months later, and the company did go on to do things. I've never really got the follow-up about how much more the revenue was. Were you able to scale this business that you purchased, Rick?
Actually, I was able to descale it, unfortunately, because he then set up a brokerage out. Long story, lawsuit was we had a protected area, right? It said you cannot compete. We had a non-compete for 4 years, right? Well, he thought he'd be slick and go set up like a mailbox over in Panama City, which was outside of the territory, right? Legally, that's what he thought. He was wrong.
Mm,
We won. Okay. And he had to pay me. Unfortunately, he didn't have to pay me enough, but he had to pay me six figures. Okay, as a result of that. But so that was a hot mess. I will tell you this, that if anybody's thinking about doing an acquisition, okay, you just have to anticipate there's going to be slippage. Okay, you just have to be very, we're all salespeople, so we see the sky's always blue. But going into this, if you do any acquisitions, just always assume that there's going to be some slippage, and you need to factor that in to your
Sure.
consideration.
Sure. Okay. Wow, great. Listen, it was Rick, whenever he comes, he always has some great insights. And when I saw you on the list, I was very excited to chat with you about this. The median realtor and medians suck. So just we'll talk about that for a second. Anyone want to guess what the median realtor earns? What anyone want to have a guess of that?
35,000.
Anyone else? Okay. So 58,100 gross. And yes, 36,600. Rick, you did your homework. Very good. So that's good. Only 4% receive any retirement benefits. Let me put it another way. 96% don't. What the fuck are we doing? Are you kidding me? I mean, especially now with my hip replacement and all this, and 57, I feel young. I was looking old. I had a beard until yesterday, and I shaved it off because I just said I'm looking too much like my dad. So I got rid of that. But this is a real problem. What are things we could do? The property management we talked about already. Referral income we talked about already. Real estate investment we're going to talk about next week with Dirk. Personal investment vehicles. What are you doing to maximize your 401k? Are you actually taking all of that seriously right now? This is not financial advice. This is just a conversation about it. And I think that all of you should very seriously take a look at that. And then finally, team building. That's going to be your single biggest thing right now, is if you could build a team in what you're already doing and see how far you're going to be able to take them. The biggest problem with any team is that 1 + 1 needs to equal 3 in order for it to really work. Let's face it, why would I join Dirk or Paula or Greg on their team if I could do the same thing on my own? Who has a team right now aside from Rick? Okay, Paula, can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself to everyone? I like your pink headset, by the way. Yeah, it's the you got to push the unmute button.
I
There,
got it.
there you
My
go.
screen went black for a minute.
No worries.
So it's really just me and my son, David.
Okay.
So, he's 31. He can run around more than I can. It's great. But I don't see myself ever really retiring, like you had said in the beginning. And the reason is because I want a sustainable business for him for the future. So I'm the one that has the reputation. People know me after so many years, born and raised here, all that great. But if I add anybody to my team, because I've thought about this and tried it out unsuccessfully, it sort of takes away from my son. So how do you do that? I know this is not about team building, it's more about retirement. So there's two things going on here, but how do you build a team without taking away from somebody else?
Well,
Like you said, 3, it's hard.
you know what I think might work well for you is Rick's model. Could
Which
you bring
is
someone onto the team and say, okay, here you got my name. You could park yourself in the seat every now and then. You could pay me a minimal amount of money for that seat. And at every transaction, pay us a fixed amount and we'll be perhaps your back end and not give them leads. Rick, good idea, bad idea?
The challenge I find is always the person that you get on the team, okay? Because we can, first of all, I call lead suspects, right? Until you turn them into a lead, right?
Mhm.
So out of 100 suspects, if we can close 1 to 3 deals, then statistically, that's kind of what the averages are, right? So that means you've got to have people on the team that really know how to use a phone to interact, because too many times I believe now teams are relying on the easy stuff that I call it, Facebook ads and other social media interactions with people that are passive, right? They show up in their feed, right? So they see it, but ultimately, it still comes back to, in my experience, the interaction, whether it's on the phone or in person. So a good team, member is going to really, most of their job's going to be on the phone talking to people, trying to engage with them, obviously meeting them in person too. I think we just, too many teams. The successful teams are doing that. The ones that aren't, they're relying more on social media and let's put a lot of posts out there. Let's hope somebody clicks on it. So that's my opinion on teams. How you really need to do this is you got to manage that day to day, and you got to hold accountable, huge accountability that they're using whatever CRM you want to use. You got to have them put notes in, and then you've got to have a weekly little sit down and say, okay, let's go over everything. Okay, Jimmy, you had three people there you talked to that looked promising. What's going on? And then pause and let them talk. And if they give you stumbles, you got to push back a little bit. Well, wait a minute. Did you try this? Did you try? You coach them, but you kind of cajole them a little bit. You got to keep them moving. You got to keep them energized.
Okay. But her question is a little bit deeper than that. If she gets the deal, she gives it to her son, basically
Right.
giving it to herself. If
Right.
you help my kid, you're more than helping me. Okay. That's, and I think Paul and I are kind of kindred spirits when it comes to family. I mean, if you help my
Definitely.
son or my daughter or my kid or whatever it is, you're going to be doing that. So the question becomes, what is the expectation of a team? Dirk, you could hop in on this as well. Greg, you might be able to hop in on this if well, Greg's driving, or Jonathan. What is the expectation? Is the expectation in the team to be the marketing engine, the back end, the brand, or are they also expecting the leads from you?
I think
The
most team
past,
members that I've had always expect, the leads coming from Papa. Okay.
right,
So,
right,
Okay.
exactly.
that's human nature. Okay. But I think Paula's is a little different just because I wouldn't really call it a team. It's her son. Obviously, she wants to give him kind of the lead she's got, transfer it. So that I get that because she wants to protect that. But if you really want to have a true team, you've got to let go of that and think, listen, if I got 4 or 5 agents on a team that are producing and I'm getting a portion of that, if you're giving them even 30%, you get three, 4 of those, then that's almost 100% like you did the deal yourself, right? 30, 30, and 30, right? So you can look at it that way. You're kind of cloning yourself.
Yeah. I'm smiling because Jonathan put into the chat here Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross. Okay, everyone saw Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross?
Show me the
Of
Did
course,
leads.
anyone
Show me
not
the
of
see it?
course.
leads.
Yes. What's your name? Fuck you. That's my name. My name. I drove in with an $80,000 BMW while you're driving out in a Hyundai. That's my name. That was a great movie. If anyone, it's required viewership. Write it down. Glengarry Glen Ross. Fabulous movie.
When we hire agents, we
Yeah.
actually suggest that they go look. Now, of course, you got to show them how to find it but we tell them you got to go look at this. You got to see it if you haven't seen it. And most of them that do come back and they say, that's amazing.
Sensational movie. Rent it now. Like definitely plan it for in your weekend Netflix or whatever you're watching. Um, but yeah, all of this has been valuable feedback. Again, it's a little abstract, I know, because there is no clear path. There is no clear understanding. There is something that you're really building yourself, but you've got to be able to push through and decide where you actually fit into the process. The other thing that we should really talk about, and I wish she was here, I don't think she is, Lavette is moving to South America. Now, I'm not telling you to be that extreme, but she did a little bit of math and she figured out that you could move to Panama, spend 50 cents on the dollar of what you're spending in the United States, and live 50% better on that 50 cents on the dollar in Panama. Moreover, the leads that she's getting, she's able to push them out to other people. And if it's now 25 cents on the dollar, effectively, she's getting half. Effectively, because the cost of living is so much cheaper there. Now, it, moving to Panama is fairly extreme. I would agree with that. But it's not out of the question. People retired to Florida years ago because they wanted to get the blue plate special. And by the way, there are still places down here that have the blue plate special. I think it's adorable. Um, and they wanted to pay their $6 for dinner, which they had to get at 5 p.m. Jerry Seinfeld told some great jokes about that. But they wanted to economize and move from expensive area to a cheaper area and be able to reap the benefit from that. That's been my solution, by the way. We were talking about they wanted to lay off um, all the postal workers. And I said, you don't really have to do that. Through natural attrition, you could say if you retire 5 years earlier, in let's say let me find a perfectly decent city that's a lot cheaper than New York. Indianapolis, a great example. There's nothing wrong with Indianapolis. Great little city, has infrastructure, good medical, good, good healthcare, all of that stuff. You can now go from spending, if somebody wants to look it up, I believe it would be, if you spend $1 in New York, I believe you'd spend 65 cents in Indianapolis. So, that should also be within the mindset, or at least an option of yours. More and more now, businesses are getting more and more portable. I'm relying on it as a salesperson because I've got people coming down to Florida with exactly that in mind. That they're saying, okay, what can we do when alleviating taxes, alleviating all these expenses? Just a thought for you as you're planning out your time. Again, Lavette is extreme. Moving to the Panama, I think that's a big, big deal. But she's got the right idea. I don't think there's anything wrong with that as an idea to be able to try and economize and do this. I've got a friend who's thinking about moving to a former Slavic country. Why? Most people don't want to move to those countries. They would rather be in the United States, but they don't realize that there's some great opportunity. And because people don't want to necessarily move there, his income is going to go from here to here. It's going to go up. And his expenses are going to drop down to 25 cents on the dollar. This guy's going to live like a king if he chooses to do that. Again, I'm not saying it's for you. I'm saying that it is another thought that should be in your arsenal for where you want to be. And if you start thinking this way, other ideas might come up. Well, yeah, I'm not going to move to the Republic of Georgia, or I'm not going to go there. But maybe I will do something a little bit different. Maybe there's some other ideas that I could get from that. That's all I want you to do is really start to think about how you could maximize the value. Anybody hear about J.A. Say, the French economist? J.A. Say, so Say's law. We create our own economy. Let me tell you what I mean by that. There is a condo here in Boca Raton. Before the condo it's called Alina. Before it was Alina, it was some very cheap rental property. Nothing wrong with it, just inexpensive rentals that actually existed there. A big developer said, this is not the highest and best use for the property. We know where the location is. We could demolish this. And now they're getting close to $1,800 a square foot. They created their own economy in that actual spot. What can you do to actually create your own economy in what you've got? Well, we see it all the time. Law of supply and demand. St. Andrews Country Club, 9 homes for sale as of right now. And a lot of them suck. And a lot of them are really, they need to be desperately renovated. There's issues. So by definition, you're able to maximize the profitability there. Homework assignment, look up J.A. Say. Say's law, French economist in the early 1900s, and then ask ChatGPT, how does this apply to Denver, Colorado? How does this apply, based upon what you know about me, Jonathan, in Boston, how could I apply J.A. Say's law to my business? Fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff. It's just one more thing to expand what you're actually doing. Again, I know this is a lot more abstract than meetings that we've had in the past, but I still think it's so important. Your diversification plan. Where's all the income coming from? Once you actually do that, there's a different line item for each one. What you currently have, if you maybe, Dirk, we talked about this before. He's got property management and referral income and rental income, and he's got hard assets that he's paying down. So he's got debt that he's going to be paying down. He's got revenue that's going to be coming in, cash out, and he's got what's currently there. But what's the target in year 5 and the target in year 1 and the target in year 5? 5 years, I mean, guys, you know this. It passes like that. An old girlfriend of mine sent me a text saying she hopes I feel better. And by the way, her husband and her are expecting their first grandchild. Oh my God, I dated a grandma. How incredible. Who knows? I went to college with her. Yeah, we're not supposed to be grandparents yet, but life happens. It happens quick. So, you know this. How are we going to apply AI to all of this? One, every other meeting that we have is always about trying to maximize your time. I think that all of you should start to think of yourselves as marketing services or transaction services for existing brokers. Let's say you have no revenue or you got very, very little revenue. What can you do with people that are within the office to try and maximize their business? People are coming to you with this type of stuff. Again, you don't necessarily need to be an AI consultant to do that. Just understand that when I got started here, 30% of my business came right from my real estate office. 30% of my business came from the brokers that were there who did not know what they were doing. They just did, or they didn't care to do what they're doing. Same thing. I just reversed it with Tiffany. I just reversed it with Tiffany. I just said, here's something. Our team is focused here. We're going to be doing this. We're sticking with those numbers. And in my coaching practice with one of you, again, we'll go nameless because these are private. She had showed me that she's got a listing for 6 million. Other listings that went between, let's say, 2 million and 6 million, some buyers that were less than that, 900,000 to 1.2 million. And then she had a few listings between 125 and 400,000. Talk about something that jumps off the page. Well, why? I live across the street. It's easy. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's just not, because it's 5 different listings that you're going to have to show, 5 different things that you're going to have to do. Why do you have it? Did it come from someone that matters so much to you? Great, I get it. Maintain that relationship. But what I'm trying to convince her is that that is not, it so jumps off the page right there. These are 5 things that have been sitting there. It's been hard to sell. It's not within her brand. I would strongly recommend that if you're in that situation with some of the deals, that you try and dial it back or find someone else to actually service those deals. And this goes against every ounce of our being as salespeople. You've got an opportunity, you're not going to let it go. You're going to hold it. You're not going to let it go. But I think that sometimes you have to back off in order to move ahead. Sometimes that's something that you actually have to do. Okay, we're going to get to wants, needs, and brags in a second. Look through all the prompts. I think that's really, really important. I also want to say again, Dirk, I'm glad I caught you here because we were talking about this. I'm looking forward to having you, and we've got 1 or 2 other landlords next Wednesday morning, 9 a.m., talking about investment property. Jorge, you're going to want to come to this one. Talking about investment property. Dirk now has 50 doors. It's great to see just what he did to acquire this, how we're going to actually finance it. What kind of risk are you going to take? Where did you fail? Dirk is a great guy. He'll talk about the broken toilet in the middle of the night. I love to use that as the example, or the issue that he's had with certain clients. And I think that that's really important. And finally, now we'll get to wants, needs, and brags. Now's the time in the meeting to talk about what you want, what you need, and what you'd like to brag about. I need to brag that next month my book is going to be published. The working title right now is Winging It Is Not an Option. I've quoted several of you in it. I've gotten referral permission forms from those who are quoted, except for one, but I need to get that from him. And it is a how-to guide to integrate AI into your real estate business. It's been a labor of love. I use this time with my hip replacement to really put a lot more time into it. My biggest problem was it got up to 300 pages, so I had to cut it back by about 25%. It's going to be available on Amazon, and if you guys could buy it and then give me stars, or tell everyone about it. I am trying to get that out there. I've had a book in me for a very, very long time. I honestly believe that I've come up with something that's really not been done before in real estate. I just think that it's going to be something that's going to be great for anyone who's actually in it. So that's my brag today. Now, I'd like to hear from you. What are your brags? Anyone could go. Anyone expecting grandchildren?
Kind of.
Kind of.
Well, not for me, but my
Yeah, I
I
was
just
going to
got
say
off the
you're
phone with
23. It's a little
yeah,
early,
no. I just got off the phone with my buddy. He might be getting a kid soon. So that kind of, you know what I mean? It's pretty cool.
He
Not quite a
might be
grandson,
getting a
but
kid soon. It's not like a
yeah,
Honda. It's kind of like
well,
there's an app for
At
that,
Walmart, Costco or
yeah. Well,
Walmart?
maybe Costco. No, he's yeah. He doesn't really know. He just kind of called me out of the blue, and yeah, that's what's happening. So maybe I'm praying that he does, but we'll see.
Okay, I love it. Welcome. That's great. Who else wants to
Yeah.
go
Hey,
first?
Ed,
Go ahead, Greg.
not necessarily a want, need, or brag, but a couple comments that I wanted to make. First of all, my exit and driving and then driving back to the office was related to a rental property and meeting the HVAC people over there to completely reduct the damn thing. In any event,
Hold on. Is it
the
your
golden
property or your
handoff,
client? Is it your property or your client's?
it's mine.
Oh, good for you. Okay.
Um, the golden handoff, has anybody read that book? It's perfect for agents my age, and it's perfect for agents Jorge's age. So if you've never read it, it's a quick, short read, and it's about transitioning your business or picking up on a retiring agent's business. It's not exactly a sale of the business, but it's how you transition for me and continue with passive income while somebody else takes what you've got and runs with it.
Okay.
Um, The Golden Handoff. It's a great book.
Golden handoff. Great. That's in the notes here, so I appreciate that. And Greg, thank you. Greg, also, I didn't want to. I know you've gone through some family issues as well, and I want to extend my sympathies to that as well. So, uh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who else? Floor, Hedeka, Jonathan Heinlein. Jonathan Heinlein, who are you? I don't know this Jonathan. Do I know Jonathan? Is that Greg? That must be a friend of Greg's. Greg's all smiles here. No? Okay.
He's my guest.
He's your guest. Okay, welcome, Jonathan. Pam, you want to chime in, Pam? Renat's probably on a treadmill. He's always working out. Okay, guys. Well, look, we're going to again have the next meeting next week. Greg, I'd love to talk with you about it. Depending, I don't know how many investment properties do you have at this point, or how many doors? Two. Okay, it'd be worth having your participation in this as well. I'm gathering people who have their own income generating properties. That's next week's topic. We're going to let out the full syllabus for the next month as well. I want to thank Aton for coming here today as well. We're working very hard on Bogen.ai. I suggest that you go to that, check it out. All the videos of these meetings are in there in the archive. The workbook is for subscribers only. So if in fact you got the workbook today as a guest, that's great. But the videos are open for the world to take a look at. So we hope that you do. Thank you all so much for coming. And I look forward to seeing all of you next week or probably Friday, 12 p.m. for another exciting episode of Rain Nation. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.